What Nadine Dorries is about to do has still come as a surprise. She's about to swap the backbenchers for Bush-Tucker trials by appearing on I'm a Celebrity, but while continuing to serve as an MP. Well, Jason Farrell is in her mid-Bedfordshire constituency. Jason, how's it going down there? A little like a mouthful of kangaroo testicle, perhaps?
Well, what Nadine Dorries has said in newspaper interviews is that she's doing this because she wants to get across her political views to a wider audience. So while she's sitting around the campfire with Eric Bristow and stars from EastEnders and Coronation Street all eating widgety grubs, she'll be talking about abortion rates and things like that and other political issues. Whether that will be cut into the programme or whether the programme makers would rather show her bathing in a vat of rats remains to be seen. But she feels that is a good enough reason for doing it. There is some confusion here actually today, because speaking to the chair of the Mid-Bedfordshire Conservatives Association, he was very confused as to where she was and said he tried to call her today, hadn't got hold of her. You'd have thought he would have known about it, but it was only after journalists told him that there was a photograph of her in Australia that he really started to believe it, and here was his reaction.
I can think of better ways of spending my time than sat in a swamp with a bucket of maggots on my head. However, if that is what she's doing, then obviously we'll be taking a very severe view on it. But we don't know at this junction. It is really conjecture. She might have just gone to Australia. Why she's gone to Australia, Theresa May's view is she should be in Westminster. I thought she was in Westminster. Normally she does keep us pretty well informed in what she's up to. I mean, she doesn't just go off willy-nilly doing things, which is why I'm a little bit taken aback at the interest in suddenly hearing this news, because it's not really in character for her to go off doing that.
Well, her local constituents aren't too impressed either. They say that there are a lot of issues that she should be focusing on that she won't be able to focus on while she's away for a month in Australia. There were mixed opinions about it, so here's what they had to say.
Why not? I think if it gets more in the public eye and perhaps a little bit more of a link to the younger population, then yeah, fair play.
She's in a public position. She has public responsibilities. She should be dealing with them.
I think it's wrong. She's here to do a job, and she shouldn't be going halfway across the world when she should be doing a job for her constituents.
Does she need to do that, though? Her views come across in Bedfordshire all right, don't they? So
I think so, yeah.
Still a lot of questions remain over this. For example, how much has she negotiated for her fee? What is she going to do with that money? There's no doubt that she will increase her profile from doing this. The question is, will she get out of the jungle with her reputation intact?
Indeed, Jason. Thanks very much. Well, I'm joined now by the former Conservative Minister Edwina Currie, who's appeared on Strictly Come Dancing and Wife Swap, and Christine Hamilton, the wife of former Tory MP Neil Hamilton, who finished third in the very first series of I'm the Celebrity. Edwina, to you first. Should she be doing it?
I don't think so. I must say, I'm looking at her chairman there, who's clearly a bit sort of teed off about the whole thing. He didn't even know she was in Australia. As constituents there say, she's got a job to do. But more than that, if Nadine seriously thinks that they're going to allow her onto national TV on a game show like this, talking about abortion, she's got another thing coming. It'll be entirely up to the editors how she is portrayed, and it won't be as a champion of anything.
Do you think that's a fair point, Christine, that perhaps possibly she's a little naive about how much of her politics she's going to be able to get across when you're in there?
Well, apparently she's never seen the programme, so...
Do we believe that?
I don't know. It's a very, very high-risk strategy for her. Obviously, in the short term, although it was interesting what that young chap said on the Vox Pop. He said he thought it was a good idea. In the short term, she's going to get nothing but opprobrium from most quarters, and I think most people will not be positive about it. But in the long term, if she does well, but that is so high risk. But take the Gillian McKeith, for example, disaster. Some people come out of it well. It did me no end of good. I mean, it changed people's perception of the sort of person that I was. So it was one of the best decisions that I had ever made in my life. But only time will tell. You are under scrutiny for 24 hours a day. And it is, as Edwina said, it's all in the editing. And what I bet is that the public are going to be voting as soon as they possibly can to get her. She's going to be one of the prime candidates for trials very early on. I don't know who else is in there, of course. There may be even primer candidates, but it's a big risk. But she, of course, is faintly semi-detached from the Tory party, so she doesn't worry really what they think.
If you're going to do a programme like this, then you have to do something wholesome in it, like cook, as you did, or dance, as I did, and also you have to enter in a spirit of fun. If you go in there with your ego waving, it's going to be the first thing that the editors will cut down.
But what she's justifying, how she's trying to justify it, is that she's going to be bringing politics to people who don't possibly engage with politics.
Well, she isn't. That is a big, big, big mistake, because these are entertainment programmes, and one of the key things that doesn't happen there is politics. She's making the same mistake that George Galloway made, and he had just lost his parliamentary seat when he thought he was going to talk about Iran and the Middle East, and he ended up in a catsuit licking milk from the lap of Rula Lenska.
It was embarrassing. But look at Boris Johnson, for example. Now, he's somebody who is well known throughout the country, and he's well known because of his persona, he's well known because of his gaffes, I suppose, more than his politics. Do you not think that that's possibly where the route that she's going down? She's thinking, if I can connect with people, if people are going to recognise me as being a Conservative woman, then this is going to be good for the Conservative Party.
Well, it's certainly going to put her on the map. She's going to be instantly much more recognisable than 99% of people in Westminster. I mean, you know, do a vox pop on who's in the cabinet, for goodness sake. You won't get much of a response from people. Show them the photographs. They won't know. She is going to be, people are going to know who she is. So when she comes out, if she's done well, she can use it, because people will listen to what she says because they know who she is.
But it's not a route into the cabinet, is it?
I don't think she wants to go into the cabinet. You know, she's been, as far as I'm aware, I don't know her well, but as far as I'm aware, she's been a hard-working constituency MP for all these years, and she's completely fallen out with the top brass in the Tory party. I mean, David Cameron's been rather condescending towards her and a little bit sexist.
We've got that grab. Let's just remind ourselves the encounter between her and David Cameron in the House.
Does the Prime Minister think it's about time he told the Deputy Prime Minister who is the boss?
I know the Honourable Lady is extremely frustrated about... maybe I should start over again. Look, I don't think... I'm going to give up on this one.
I mean, there has been a lot said, Edwina, about the Conservatives' problems with women and women voters and some of their policies. I mean, could she be perhaps re-energising the party and the way that Conservative women are perceived?
Oh, I absolutely think that, you know, if the party really wants to get on, it should have, you know, feisty Scouser women, like Nadine, like me, and all the rest of it. But I'm not sure going into the jungle is the best way to convince the Prime Minister that she really ought to be running the Department of Trade and Industry.
What about her responsibilities at the time?
Well, one of the other things she's criticised for exactly is that she's swanning off to Australia when she should be working at Westminster. Well, working at Westminster covers a multitude of sins, like in the bars and just lolling around in the library reading 50 Shades of Grey, which is probably goes on.
No, it does not. They work much harder than that, as you know.
Do they?
Yes, they do.
But don't forget also that an awful lot of MPs spend a huge amount of time swanning off to places like Barbados on so-called fact-finding missions and goodness knows what. So, you know, it's not unusual for MPs to be away while the Commons is sitting. So, you know, I think once the hysteria has died down, one needs to get this sort of slightly in perspective. But it goes back to...
Will her constituency not grind to a halt if she's not there, Edwina?
If she's got good stuff, the constituency won't grind to a halt. But then you do have to ask yourself, if there's good staff in there, maybe they ought to be the people who are the MPs.
But why should we be paying her, you know, as a taxpayer, why should we be giving her money to go off to Australia before I flood the studio?
Well, that's a very good question. I mean, there's a world of difference between taking part in a TV programme that has some kind of honourable and worthy purpose and doing something that's just an entertainment programme. I mean, entertainment is wonderful in these dark and grimy days, but nonetheless, I would have thought, and Nadine, you've got a day job, and it's an important one. Yeah, just do that well, and that perhaps is your route to promotion.
What I do think she's got to think very carefully about, and I can't remember one of you's touched on this, is what she does with the fee that she's going to get, or what she does with her parliamentary salary while she's away. And I think she could actually redeem herself and counter a lot of this criticism if she is, shall we say, you know, inventive with what she does with it, puts it to a good use.
Well, indeed, we don't know what she's going to do yet. You know, maybe she's waiting, she's keeping that up her sleeve, perhaps, for all the detractors to announce which charity she's giving it to, maybe.
It wasn't a huge amount when I went into the jungle, but now they get a lot of money for doing it. They do.
She's going to have to take her chairman out to dinner, isn't she?
Yeah, hopefully which of you grubs won't be on the menu. Edwina, Currie and Christine Hamilton, great to have you both in. Thank you both very much.